Welcome back to episode 21 of the weekly recap and upcoming weekly preview. Today's episode is going to be more about next week versus what happened last week because it was kind of like an uneventful week. Basically, the biggest story I think last week was, or I guess it's still Sunday, so technically this week, but was the whole Aptos launch. So yeah, a lot of money to be made and lost when it comes to Aptos. My short did not do so well, so yeah, a lot of shorts got liquidated or stopped out, and it'll be interesting to see when things kind of die down. If we look at Aptos right now, well, we'll get into it in a bit, but this fully diluted market cap is ridiculous, so we can talk about that. But really, the big thing that I want to cover in today's show is going to be next week. Next week is going to be huge. It's going to be massive. As you can see right here, BTC is at a point where, and this is the weekly, mind you, where it's going to get some resolution of this structure that we've been in for a bit now, and the resolution will most likely, I think, happen next week. I guess it could happen the week after, maybe. That wouldn't be the craziest, weirdest thing, but I think it's going to be next week. But look, guys, next week, what's going on next week as far as macro? Well, I believe 5 out of the biggest 7 companies in the NASDAQ are going to be reporting earnings Tuesday through Thursday of next week. So that's kind of big. So that may have a lot to do with how things go. But at the same time, we have the Powell is going to be announcing if it's 75 basis points or not. Probably will be 75 basis points, but more importantly, he's going to give direction and guidance as to how they're going to move forward, right? Are they going to stay so hawkish? Which now we're starting to realize that because our markets are such clown markets, if he stays too hawkish for too long, it's going to destroy things in ways that we didn't even see possible, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what he says, right? Because I think save 75 basis points is pretty much for sure. So now it's more a matter of the narrative and how he explains their moves in the next 3 to 6 months. So, but that's not until the following week, right? So that's what I find interesting because according from the TA perspective, we're looking right here at next week being the week that really kind of moves things, but maybe somehow it'll be the week after, and maybe we all just had I just had to maybe kind of change the way I had this kind of lined up. I don't know. Timing these types of things is always very, very hard, and so it's just really interesting because if this structure decides to take the turn for the worse and takes that massive downturn, well, then it was because of the earnings, right? Because the biggest companies in the NASDAQ basically all gave horrible guidance. The macro sucks, all these different issues. So it will cause a huge downturn. But if this structure were to break to the upside, well, I have a hard time believing that's going to be because earnings are, so glorious and fantastic, right? So it makes me wonder if maybe it could somehow be the next week that we see the big break to the upside after Powell gives more dovish comments due to the fact that we're seeing the global markets basically break, right? I mean, Treasury should not dip at a more volatile rate to the downside than stocks, but that's what's happening, and it's actually never happened before. So we're seeing some crazy things happening, but or could it be a situation where the horrible NASDAQ earnings next week from the big players do create that huge push to the downside, but then when Powell speaks, that creates the next little run up, and I'm not going to say creates or the next bull market or anything like that, because with the macro being as bad as it is, we just started quantitative tightening. They've only tightened 2% of the balance sheets. We still have, I think, a lot more sideways and down to go, I think, for months and months and months. So I'm not going to call the next bull run or, hey, we found a low kind of or a bottom kind of thing, because I just think that the macro kind of tells us that that's not possible. But so that's what we're going to cover today. But before we get into all that, I just want to say a huge thank you to our partner and sponsor, Swapsicle. Swapsicle is a DEX that has been doing quite a bit. And one thing that I like about Swapsicle as well is that they are going to be moving from where they kind of had their inception, which was AVAX. They're not going to BSC. and they now have, I think it looks like a vote going as far as which network should go next. And yeah, these guys are always building. Great place to swap and farm. And yeah, so their initiative to be multi-chain is definitely going as planned. So congratulations to them now that they are available with Binance Smart Chain. And as far as anything else, as far as housekeeping, guys, if you're looking to short crypto, you're looking to use some leverage, then check out my link below for Bitget. Bitget is a way for you to use the affiliate link below I have. It's a great way to support the channel. So thank you for those of you that have been using that Bitget link. There's a number of you that have. Thank you so much. It's a great way to support the channel, and hopefully your leveraged or short trades on Bitget have been going great. All right, guys. So let's get back into it. So what does this mean for Ethereum? Well, it's just going to follow what BTC does. It's that simple. There's really not much else to look at. I mean, if you want to look real short term and you look at Ethereum right now on the daily, it is starting to look a little better than it did maybe a week ago. Even the RSI starting to kind of, you're starting to see some higher highs with the RSI and definitely higher lows. So it is looking, pretty good, but like we've talked about it feels like forever now. Until it gets over 1421, it's just all sorts of bullish. I mean, all sorts of bearish. And it is, kind of stating that maybe it does want to make a run towards 1421. But right now, it's just going to follow what Bitcoin does. And it's really hard to say what Bitcoin will do. So if we look back to the other chart that I showed a second ago, I mean, this is it. I mean, we're going to wait and see what the markets do over the next few days, and then what happens with Powell. I mean, it pretty much comes down to that. There's not that much more to analyze. The traditional markets had such a strong Friday, a crazy, crazy strong Friday, which was unexpected. So, that kind of gives us some hope that maybe we will see some short-term reprieve. But at the end of the day, it's just going to be a waiting game. Let's see what happens with those earnings on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. See how the market reacts to that. That could be our huge big move that we're waiting on, which could move us down pretty low, guys. Pretty freaking low. I mean, will we see 17.5 again? Absolutely, we would. And it's just a matter of what we would see below that. I think we've talked about in the past that kind of a 14. I think it was like about a 13.8 Bitcoin would make a lot of sense, or 14K Bitcoin would make a lot of sense if we were to just split through that 17.5 support, and then after that, I mean, the conversation can get pretty ugly as well. But I think 11.8 to 12 is another place where we saw some support. But at the end of the day, let's just wait and see what happens before we get ahead of ourselves. Now, if there is resolution to the upside, then that would be pretty fantastic. And even here on the weekly, you could see there's not like a ton of resistance. I think there'd be certain psychological barriers on the way there. But I think 23.15 would make a lot of sense. Maybe 23, about 23 to 23.200 would make a lot of sense as the biggest, on the weekly at least, the biggest level of resistance. Now, looking at the Dixie, I did want to call this out. This is actually really, really important. Dixie has shown a lot, and I do mean a lot, here. We're going to go to the weekly, actually, because this is what I was looking at. It's on the weekly, if we look here, RSI is definitely showing now 1 right here, 2 right here, 3 right here. 3 different signs of bearish confluence, right? And so we are starting to see on the RSI not 1, not 2, but 3 different signs of some bearishness forming, where on some of these other ones it was like 1, 2, but then the third one was higher, right? So, and even here, so we haven't seen a lot of that happen since over here back on March 30th was the last time that we saw something like that on the weekly. So March 30th was quite a long time ago, and if we go back to that, you'll see that then we painted this huge red candle after that. So so that's pretty interesting to see. So Dixie is definitely showing some weakness, short term. Again, this is on the weekly, so this is something that could probably play out over maybe like a quarter or so, 3 months. But at the end of the day, if we kind of zoom out, I still think that 121 is coming right there. Yeah, 121 is coming. But how long will that be? I mean, this could be all of 2023. Really could. It's hard to know for sure, but it really, really could be. But it's just looking very toppy right now, and all signs are showing for it to drop quite a bit. So that kind of does paint the picture that maybe Bitcoin and the alts could have a nice little run over the next few weeks, and we could have a little bull run very much in a bear market, right? So this would be pretty nice to see. And like I said, 23,000 is probably where I would start to wonder, if is that as high as it goes? But it's really hard to say. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself because who knows what the indicators will look like then. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, it's a lot of different scenarios. My guess of what's going to happen, I mean, I'm just throwing crap out there, guys. I really don't know. It's just so dependent on like I said, earnings, and then on what Powell says. Not so much what he does, because I think we know he's going to do 75 points. And then yeah, we just want to play a crazy, what if game. What if he comes out and says, you know what? I'm really, we don't want to break the global markets right now. We're going to do 50 basis points. Then yeah, the markets would go absolutely nuts if that were to happen. But again, I think that what's most likely going to happen is that this next week will be red, a little sideways, and then earnings will not be great. And then, even Tesla, who's like one of the few companies that I think is doing better than most, right? And they still have back orders. Even their earnings caused Tesla to drop quite a bit, especially in the after hours, right after they had their earnings call. So, I'm expecting earnings to be really poor Tuesday through Thursday. So that could be it. I mean, that could be that huge drop we've been waiting for, and then what Powell does the following week kind of helps out. So that's why I'm thinking that's kind of what might happen. Or watch Powell just stay on his super crazy hawkish tone, and then we get some serious pain, serious pain. But again, I'm sorry that I'm not more helpful with like actual not calls, but like strongly implying what I think the TA is stating, and how the macro is going to affect that. It really is like a very, very hard time to navigate through this. I mean, it seems like the only easy thing to do is we can look at the chart. It's to short this bad boy. It's to short Lunzi. I still have my shorts open that I've had forever. It seems like I opened some, I closed some, but I have my shorts that I haven't closed. I have certain that I haven't closed through this whole downtrend, and it's just been a beautiful, beautiful thing. Unfortunately, my shorts did not do well with Aptos. Here's Aptos. What's going on here, guys? This is insane. Like, I don't even know what to make of this. Look at this fully diluted market cap, almost 9.5 billion for this. This is crazy. VCs playing games, short squeezes happening, and that's why I had a crappy week with my shorts here because of all that. I kind of underestimated the power of these VCs and market makers and those looking for short squeezes, and they played it well. Congratulations to them, squeezing this up. My lines, my levels I wrote here don't even matter right now, and I hadn't even tried to go through the trouble of creating levels up here because I'm not playing this right now. I'm just gonna wait and see what happens. I mean, it's dropped down now from $10.20. We put it at a fully diluted market cap of over 10 billion. For I think it's the BS valuation they gave themselves was 4 billion, right? Just silly stuff. But anything can happen. Another short squeeze can happen at any point right now. Volume is still crazy high. When volume gets to these levels over here, look how much lower the volume is there. Then it might make sense, to open up shorts after some kind of run. But even then, I mean, I just feel like this thing can be manipulated and squeezed really, really quickly. Their circulating supply, a lot of it is staked, but these guys are dumping the rewards on you right away. So again, this is just, to me, it just feels like another money grab. We'll see if Aptos can actually solve some of the things that they state they want to solve. But at the end of the day, as far as, I did realize they can do some things that maybe Solana and Near can't do with security, and a little bit with transaction speeds, maybe if they're able to reach their goals. But it's, at the end of the day, man, it was just a group of guys that worked for Facebook. They did that Project DM. Regulation cut that project off, and they didn't want all that money and work to go away, so they started their own thing and got some VCs to fund it. But we'll see what happens. I firmly believe that this will be at a much lower price at some point. But do you really want to open up shorts when the price action is this crazy and volatile? Another short squeeze can happen at any point, and the volume is so high. So yeah, I think the best thing that I'm going to do is wait. I will short this asset at some point, but I just don't want to short it right now. It's just too risky. As far as other things, Elrond had a huge drop off. It went all the way up to 59, had a huge drop off. Their conference starts in a week. So as long as Bitcoin doesn't have, it's just, I can't touch this asset right now. I did really well with it last week or the week before as well, taking longs on it. But right now I don't want to take a long on anything because I don't know what's going to happen. So once Bitcoin shows some resolution, then maybe Elrond would be one to take a look at, because with the conference starting, I think in like 8 days, you got to think that's going to provide buy pressure like it always does when these projects have their conference. I'm trying to think about what else, but that's really about it. Congratulations to Magic Finance. Magic's been doing really well. They've made a few announcements. I hear another big announcements coming pretty soon that should help the price action maybe. So $4.28. Congrats to them. They were at a much lower price. Walrus share also has had a nice little run the last few days, it looks like. So with some of those DeFi projects that we love to look at, looks like some of them are doing a lot better. Let's see how Wine is doing. Haven't looked at it in a while. Wine is having a drop off now, but it was down to about $10, $11. So again, that one showed some strength in the last weeks. MDB is still showing some stability. It did have a huge drop off from 0.18, I think it was. Yeah. So it looks like it's stabilizing. Not bad at all. And then Pebble, with its V2 move to, wow, look at that, 32% move. Pebble's starting to do some things, so we'll see what happens as they did their V2 move to BSC, because that's where everyone's going. Everyone's going to BSC because that's where the liquidity's at. So, all right, guys, I think that's it for today. Sorry that I couldn't have more detailed, predictions or forecasts of what I think is going to happen this week, but it's just one of those weeks where it's just so dependent on these weird factors. So we will wait and see. The next 2 weeks will be crazy interesting, and just be really careful, because I think these moves are going to be very volatile, and yeah, we're just in some unprecedented times. A lot of what's happening with the macro has literally never happened before. So will this strengthen the case for the use case for Bitcoin some more? It could, but when the macro is this bad, you just got to be really careful. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we might see a little bull run too. So all over the place, and that's basically where we're at. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.